Being able to present data graphically is a big advantage about spreadsheets in that we can show data in a way that is easy to see. Now, I'm going to select just the columns that I want to show in my chart rather than all of it to start with. I'm just going to want first name and their start of year score. So those are two columns I'm interested in. Notice I've selected the header, so that means that the data will have a name. And unfortunately, these two aren't next to each other, so I can't just swipe and select them. I'm going to have to press and hold Control. So I've selected my first bit, then I press down on Control and select the start of year column and the data I want from that. And then I can let go of Control. Now, I've got these two columns selected. It is clever enough to know that Anakin is 78, Obi-Wan is 65. It is matching them up, even though there's a break in it, because it's still associating them both to row 2. Now, when you go to Insert and Chart, it is a bit of a wizard, it's a bit of a shortcut, and it will automatically think up the best chart it thinks we should use. So I'll go Insert Chart there, and there's also on the bar up there as well, I've got an option. But I'll go Insert Chart, it'll have a think about it. It's decided that the best bet here is to give me a bar chart. Now, it's got itself a little bit confused because it's saying it's start of year against first, because that column is called first name. So it's saying it's start of year scores would probably be a better title. So I can edit the bits of the chart I've got. Once I've got a chart, if I click off it, it just stays there. If I click on the chart, it becomes selectable. I can move it around like any image. If I click on the snowman in the corner, it brings me up the option to edit the chart. Now, when I edit the chart, I can change the type of chart it is. It's given me column by default, and that's its suggested one. It will try a few other options, and you can put it into any format you want, but just think, is the data really relevant? I mean, should I be using a line graph or a line chart for this kind of data? No, but I can do it if I want to, see what it looks like. Should I be using a pie chart? Probably not really, but it does give me the options. I can have a play around with them there. So setup lets me talk about the type of chart I actually want. Customize just basically goes into appearance. So I can change the style, the colors, I can change how it appears, I can make it 3D, I can do all sorts of things like that to it, and I can fiddle around with the titles and the axes as well. So if I decide that the axis doesn't need to go up to 100, say my test was at 100, it's automatically giving it a size, but I could say the maximum value could be 105. I can fiddle around with my axes on the side if I really want to, but I don't have to because the default is usually pretty good. I can add grid lines to it, or I can take grid lines away, and I can adjust where they appear. There's all sorts of different settings. The general wizard is pretty good. It's just a case of tidying it up with that. To show just how good the wizard is, and it might just get a little bit confused, you can do some really good things with it. So if I select all this data, it will put all of the data onto a chart, and it will try and work out the best way to do it. So if I go to Insert, Chart, it's got a lot of information to take on board here, and it produces, this time it's gone for a column graph again, or a bar graph, and it's a bit confused. It's put down vulnerable as my x-axis, but it's got score as my y-axis still, and it's got the names on them there. That's not bad. It's got the two graphs, so it's got start of year and end of year on it. If I go into the x-axis, I could actually change it slightly. So at the moment, the x-axis is labeled as vulnerable. I could change that. This is just in the setup that's appeared of it. If I changed it by clicking on that, I could change this to being the first, because first name. And then I could change the label, which is what's appearing on the graphs, to being vulnerable. So there we go. Just a couple of little quick changes. And I've now got a graph where I've got their names along the bottom, and it's got vulnerable markers on it for the ones who have been identified as vulnerable. So it's dealt with quite a lot of complex data and quite a lot of interesting laid out form there pretty effectively. It hasn't included light and dark. It's obviously decided it can't think of a good way to do that automatically. We could fiddle around with it to get there, but for what the purposes of my data is showing, that is a perfectly good graph. Now that I've got my graph, I can edit it with the handles. I can make it different sizes. One option as well is I can download it as a PDF or a picture, which would be useful if I was uploading it. Or I could publish it as well. I can move it to its own sheet as well, which means that rather than being on a sheet with the data, it goes separately. So, and I could just copy and paste it in anywhere I want, and that would be a live link as well. So if I kept fiddling with the data and copied and pasted it into a spreadsheet, if I was still inputting data, it would be there. If I put it into a presentation, it would still be there as well. Publishing it is a bit more final, and downloading, obviously, by the time it's a PDF, it's just a PDF. It won't update anymore. So that is adding charts.